This is the Pilot RC 67-inch Extra NG. This is a plane I got just a few days ago from Tales That Aviation, and I already posted the unboxing in the channel. If you haven't seen it, go check it out. But yeah, this is gonna be the build video. I'm expecting this build to be pretty quick, but I will go through the different components we're gonna use in this plane. So to start with, it's gonna be guidance. We're gonna be using the FrSky X20S, and that's gonna be paired with the TD-R6 tandem receiver. So this has 2.4 as well as 900 megahertz for better reliability, with a very small form factor. For servos, we're gonna be using 4 Theta 989 servos. I've used these ones in the past. Very quick, pretty strong. So far they've been very reliable and very precise, so I'm pretty excited about these servos for this plane. For power system, I'm also going to be using something I've tried in the past. It's going to be a T-Motor AM670 paired with the ESC, also from T-Motor, is the AM116A. This power system using the T-Motor 18x8R has been a really good power system for similar sized planes. A lot of power, really good throttle response. So I think this is gonna be a perfect fit for this plane. And that's pretty much it. Everything else that we need to get this plane in the air already comes in the box. For example, we have here some of the hardware included. We have extensions for the cable of the servos that need to be a bit longer. We have Velcro straps. We have pretty much everything we need other than basic tools and glues to get things going. So let's get the build started.
First, I'm getting started hinging the ailerons and elevators. For this type of hinge, my initial step is to clean the hinges with some alcohol to remove any dust or grease. I also apply a small drop of 3-in-1 oil to the hinge axle to lubricate and add a protective layer from the epoxy. For gluing the hinges, I like to use 30 minutes epoxy. It gives me plenty of time to ensure a good alignment and to wipe any excess with alcohol. I put some glue in the holes and then some in the hinges themselves. Then I wipe any excess epoxy and ensure all the axles are properly aligned. Now we can set aside. Once everything is properly cured, we move to the other side of the hinges and just repeat the same process. This side is easier because we already took care of the positioning of the hinges. Now it's only a matter of getting the right separation between the aileron and wing. After both wings are completed, I repeat the process on the elevators and the rudder. I won't install the rudder in the fuselage yet, as we need to glue the horizontal stab to the fuselage first. With the hinging mostly done, I move on to installing the horns. All of the horns are the same and have a snug fit on the pre-cut holes, so the process is pretty straightforward. After scuffing the horns to ensure the glue has a good surface to grip to, I add epoxy to the hole and to the horn before inserting it. As usual, I wipe with alcohol any excess epoxy, and ensure that the horn position looks correct before putting things aside and letting them cure. The landing gear install is straightforward, using bolts and lock nuts for the main gear. To install the tail wheel, I drilled some pilot holes for the 2 screws that secure the carbon assembly. I also applied a bit of tight bond before screwing them in. For the ball link, I just used some CA. Let's now glue the horizontal stab to the fuselage. The fit is pretty solid. There's not a lot of wiggle room here, but just in case, I like to confirm that the position is good and symmetric by taking some measurements before adding any glue. After checking the fit, I use 30-minute epoxy to glue it in place. Now the horizontal stab and the piece behind it are glued, I finish gluing the rudder hinges. Moving on to the motor box. The back of the motor box comes with the bolt pattern pre-drilled to attach the box to the fuselage. I just need to drill the holes to a bigger size and install the box with included bolts and lock nuts. In all of my planes, I like to add a generous amount of thin CA to all the joints of the motor box to fill any potential gaps that are missing some glue. Using a ball end hex driver, I installed the 4 bolts with lock nuts to fix the motor box to the fuselage. I also used some epoxy on the wood surfaces. There is still more work to do with the motor box, but for now I start installing the motor. I ended up using 3 of the included standoff plates to get the right position of the spinner plate with a small gap against the cowling. To install the cowling, we have to drill the holes for the 2 bolts in the bottom. In order to do that, I used some blue tape to mark the location of the holes. Then position the cowling with some tape and drill the holes following the marks I got before. Once the landing gear is attached to the plane, it's time to secure the wheel pants. Once happy with the angle, I drill the holes for the bolts. Threading the nuts into the bolts can be tricky because there is very little room for tools. I used some hemostats to do the initial threading of the nut. Once in position, I switched to the combination wrench to get things tight. Getting back to the motor box, now it's time to install the top plate and the triangular reinforcements with some epoxy. I also decided to further reinforce the motor box with some plywood fiber laminate I had left over from another project. Pilot RC also has available reinforcement kits to accomplish the same job. You can reach out to Tailslide Aviation or your country's Pilot RC dealer if you want to get one. Time to move on to the servos. Before installing the servos, I added small pieces of plywood with CA to increase the thickness of the wood so that the servo screws have more to grab onto. The Theta 989 motor sticks out a little bit from the servo housing, so I used a Dremel to remove some of the material and make space for it. After that, I drill the holes for the screws. I like to start by temporarily putting the bolts in as I go, to lock the servo in position and ensure the following holes are in the right location. Then I back out the screws and add a bit of CA. Once the CA cures, I install the screws permanently. With the servos installed, it's just a matter of installing the included ball links and control rods. I found that using some locking pliers makes it easy to thread the ball links and adjust the length of the control rods. This plane comes with a convenient quick assembly attachment system for the wings. However, the included plastic wing bolts were a bit shorter than I liked, so I ended up switching them for some longer metal thumb screws I got from Amazon, and they work great. I've included the link below. With assembly complete, we can now move on to securing the included servo extensions, the receiver, and the antennas. This is what things look like right now. The recommended center of gravity from the factory is on the wing tube. I initially tested the center of gravity using two different batteries, a 4400 mAh and a 6200 mAh battery. I ended up using the bigger pack, as I can get the center of gravity spot on while mounting the battery in a convenient location. Also, this will give me plenty of flight time, and I've run this battery and motor combination in the past with great success. As in all my aerobatic propeller planes, I keep the radio setup very simple, no dual rates or flight modes. I simply set up one switch for turning the motor on and off, and set exponentials for my flight surfaces. For throws, in ailerons, I'm using about 37 degrees up and down and 68% exponential. For the elevator, I have about 60 degrees up and down and 80% exponential. For the rudder, I have about 44 degrees and 60% exponential. At this point, the plane is ready to go, and the only thing left is to charge those batteries and get to the field to have some fun. I hope this video was helpful. If you want to get your own extra, make sure to give Harry and Nikki from Tailslide Aviation a call. They'll treat you very well. See you later!